Let's have a session on contingency planning. So contingency planning is when you have a plan in place for if you have an unexpected or unwanted event. An example of that could be something minor, like a brownout, or slightly more advanced, like a blackout, or it could be something major, like a pandemic. Now, with contingency planning, it might be included in the overall strategy of the business. Why use them? Well, you might want to use them to reduce damage associated with that unexpected or unwanted event. Perhaps it's something more minor like a blackout. Well, then your contingency plan for that situation may be that you have generators already fully charged and ready. They're in place to help you continue with your production. That will reduce the impact of the production issues that would have happened if you didn't have those generators in place because you didn't have a contingency plan. It could be something else, more major, like a disaster occurs, and you might have a contingency plan in place for that disaster, and that will help reduce panic in that situation. Additionally, employees, they won't be panicked, they now know what to do. They'll be making action instead of panicking. So it's likely that you would have created a contingency plan in place beforehand. Maybe there's a comprehensive step-by-step guide to how to mitigate and get through that particular situation. Only possible because of the contingency plan. And that will allow you to perhaps protect your reputation, protect your brand image. So if the event is handled poorly, then that could have negative financial ramifications. It could lead to heavy PR costs in the long term because you didn't have contingency plans in place when that particular disaster occurred. So perhaps it's worth having contingency planning because it will protect that reputation, protect that brand, and avoid losing customers and, of course, sales. Now let's look at the other side. So considerations. Well, it's impossible to create a plan for every single eventuality. Absolutely impossible to do that because some of it is uncertain. We don't even know what we're preparing for. It's vital to maintain, update, and train your employees in the contingency plan to make sure in the situation that you need to use your contingency plan, it works. Something simple to explain that. It could be that you put generators in place for your contingency plan, you know where they're located, and then the brownout occurs, you need them, and then you find out they haven't been charged up, or no one knows how to turn them on. Well, that's a situation of where you haven't maintained the situation, you haven't updated, you haven't trained employees, so you can't even use those generators when you need to use them. So it's important to keep upskilling the employees for the contingency plan. Obviously that's something simple like generators, but it might be something much more complex. Now, an important consideration is cost versus benefit. The cost of maintaining, the cost of updating, the cost of training your employees, and you'll want to compare that to the associated benefit of whatever you're mitigating against. Now, it might make sense for certain major and more transparent, more obvious risks that are faced by the business to have a contingency plan in place. And it's particularly important in unpredictable industries, where it may in fact be essential to have certain contingency plans in place. We could be thinking about the travel or airline industry, where more obvious threats could be shocks to the oil price, it could be strikes from employees, or it could be terrorist threats. All of these are perhaps seem quite more obvious risks to those particular industries. Either way, I hope that helps, and I'll see you at the next sesh.